your... All right, so on Monday, we talked through some ideas for strengthening the ins. Okay, if you're not sure if today's reel is for you, here's a reminder of how to test to understand the balance between the function on the inside of your thigh and the function on the outside of your hip. And if it's not balanced, to understand what in your body needs your attention. All right, so on Monday, we talked through some ideas for strengthening the inside of your thigh, if that's what you found from the test. And now today, we're talking about strengthening the outside of your hip if you're one of those people whose pelvis tends to drop away from your standing leg. So when we talk about glute medius function, so there's three glute muscles. You have the big glute max that makes the shape of your bum. You have glute medius on the outside, and then underneath you have glute minimus, which does a very similar role in stabilizing the hip joint underneath of glute medius. So usually when we talk about glute medius, we talk about how its job is to take the leg away from midline. And it is, that's what it does, but it's more complex than that. And this isn't super functional, like we don't spend very much of our day doing this motion. And so what it really does is stabilize your pelvis when you're standing on one leg. And so this stability of your pelvis when you're standing on one leg is super, super important when you're doing something like walking, because we need you to have a stable pelvis for walking, because if your pelvis is shifting and turning, it's changing the orientation of the pelvic floor muscles relative to the ground or relative to gravity. So you can't get the same pelvic floor contraction, or it makes it more difficult to get the same pelvic floor contraction when you change the orientation of the pelvis relative to the ground. And the attachment for your abs is to your pelvis. So as you change the orientation of your pelvis, you're also changing your ability to contract those abs. And so having a strong and reliable glute medius means that you have a strong and stable pelvis, and it makes it easier for your pelvic floor and your abs to contribute the way they should when you're standing on one leg for all sorts of everyday tasks, but particularly walking.